Ladies and gentlemen, the album review you guys helped me win is finally up. So shout-outs to Ear to the Ground Music. I don't know how it slipped past my radar. It's been online since the 3rd, apparently, and I don't know how I missed it, but better late than never. So thank you to these guys for a beautiful write-up. They say a lot of great things here. They compliment me on my vocal harmonies, which is pretty awesome. Draw some comparisons in terms of atmosphere with Pink Floyd and the late Beatles sound. And one thing I found that's pretty interesting is how they talk about the idea of conjuring images. And they mention the Velveteen Valleys as an example of that idea. And that song to them evokes sort of a very bucolic countryside-like setting. And that's interesting because I find often when I'm recording, I will actually see a lot of these types of images and places, and my mind will just kind of take a trip somewhere else for a while. And you don't even know what's happening. A lot of times it's just some kind of ineffable idea you can't even pinpoint. It's just formless, but it happens. You see these things as you're playing something, like I could be playing a keyboard melody or a guitar riff, and there'll be these colors and patterns and sometimes more dense, earthly kind of things like the pyramids in Egypt or whatever, or a jungle, or like mountaintops or something. And it just goes with the vibes, and it's part of the atmosphere. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if that's tapping into some higher consciousness, or if it's just some kind of repressed memory that coincides with the vibratory nature of whatever melody I'm playing at the time. I don't know, but if you guys have any ideas, I'd sure love to hear about it, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who experiences the correlation between visual with audio. So if that's something that happens to you, I'd love to hear about it. It's an interesting subject matter. And they also mentioned something here. I thought this was kind of funny. They talk about Subearth and Patchwork Taurus, and they say, just purely out of speculation here, but this might be a track designed to be enjoyed in conjunction with mind-altering substances. Might be onto something there. Why don't you guys try that out and report back to me? We'll see how it goes. What else? The final track leaves the listener with a sense of meditation and even enlightenment. Not knowing much about the intellectual history of the band, I would venture to guess that Eastern cultural and religious influences are prominent in their approach. And I want to address that by reading to you an answer I gave for an interview with Wono magazine about a few months ago. And I say in that interview, the particular question involves what my views are in terms of the Eastern religious references that I often have in titles of my songs and some ideas and imagery. And so what I said was, I hold spirituality in the highest regard. It is from God, the divine source, whatever you relate to that essence as being the place from which all music flows. Regardless of any sectarian perspective through which an individual views the world, the truth of our universal oneness prevails, and it is this divine spirit that permeates all things and excludes no one. I believe that one's allegiance to any particular religion is circumstantial, and that more times than not, the core values that serve as the foundation of the individual teachings of these religions share a common thread of benevolence and brotherhood. Now, of course, some might be quick to argue that religion is in fact the root cause of many examples of war and intolerance throughout the world, and they would not, in many cases, be incorrect in assuming so based on surface-level observation. But the deeper truth is that these turmoils have less to do with conflicting ideologies than they do with the clandestine group of bloodline elites who have centuries ago hijacked the world's religious institutions, along with the institutions of government, media, industry, science, education, and so forth, for the purpose of implementing the social manipulation necessary in their plan for global domination. So they take hold of these institutions for the purpose, I'll read this part again because it's important, for the purpose of implementing the social manipulation necessary in their plan for global domination. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, pick up a copy of The Perception Deception by David Icke. It's one of the most enlightening books you will ever read. And I continue. As for my references to Eastern religion and philosophy, I consider these a nod to the emphasis of the importance of spirituality and pertinence to the individual, rather than blanket doctrine, a theme I find to be most prevalent in the Eastern tradition. The nature of reality lies in the fact that the universe is a holographic representation of the frequencies that it is comprised of, a sea of vibratory information, if you will. And I find it fascinating that Eastern philosophies take this into account concerning the flow of Kundalini energy through the body and the importance of deep states of meditation as a means of reconnecting to the source, or to God, essentially, or whatever you want to call it, the Christ energy, as all of these terms are describing the same divine force. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that concept, and that about does it. I mean, I don't know what else I'm going to get into now. I don't want this video to be as long as the other one was, because that was pushing like 20 minutes almost, if I remember correctly. So if you guys have any philosophical thoughts you want to share, feel free to do so. Let's see if I can give you guys a quick album update while the camera's going here. There's one song I've been working on recently called Hope It All Works Out, and I do some very almost like Frankie Valli-esque falsetto vocals in that one there, so that'll be interesting. It's something new that I haven't done before, kind of experimenting with that sound a little bit, and it's a challenge, I will say that. It's tough to hit those high registers, but you get that right kind of resonance going, and it works out. But it takes a lot of practice and a lot of trial and error, because I don't really I'm not a trained vocalist by any means, so this is all my own cumulative acquisition of learning as I go, and it's going in quite a good direction, and I think you'll be happy with it. So a lot of new things to expect, as I've mentioned before. What else can I talk about here? We got that song going. We've got I like to work on all of my songs at once, because I guess I should be more clear. I record all of them within the same scope of time. In other words, one day I might dedicate towards working on one song, the next day I'll take on a different song, and so on and so forth, just so that I have each one moving at the same pace, a little bit here, a little bit there, so the whole album is coming together kind of at once, rather than like doing one song at a time, and then by the time you get to like the end, it's like you might, I mean not all the time, but you might run into some kind of situation where your production is a little bit different on this one than it is on this one over here, simply based on learning as you go and adding more new techniques to your approach, and that'll all have an effect on the overall sound. And so, as I mentioned before, the importance of being cohesive from start to finish is what lends that quality to a record, and if you don't have that, well, it's at the detriment of the overall body of work. And so that's why I try to do everything at once, so it all kind of enforces that idea of being cohesive. And there's also another reason for that as well, and that's probably the more important reason, is I go where inspiration takes me. If I feel like doing a ballad one day, I'm going to go in that direction. If I feel like doing some kind of radio-friendly sunshine pop kind of thing, I'll do that. And if I want to do one of the more abstract, heavier, psychedelic ones, then I'll do that. And it's just a matter of getting them all going within the same framework of time, and within that, sort of just going where the spirit takes me. So that's my approach in terms of the outlook I have in the structure of recording. So I won't take up any more of your time. Yeah, so do yourself a favor and get outside. It's a nice day, a little bit hot, but I don't know, man, something about going in the woods, it's great for the mind, and it's great for inspiration. So anybody, whether you're a musician or not, can benefit from that. So Alright, there it is then. I'll keep you guys posted on any new information that comes along, and some more updates will be happening soon. See you later. Have a good one.